GM, everyone. Really happy to be here. Thank you guys, WalletConnect and all friends for putting this on. Really excited to introduce this panel with these absolute gigabrains. So why don't you guys just come on stage and introduce yourselves. I'll not introduce for you, because I think you guys will do a better job of this. So we can go ahead left to right here. So why don't you just go and start.
Hi, everyone. I'm Gabby Rodriguez. I lead demand-side product at Pocket Network. And yeah, I look a little bit different from my picture.
Hey, hi, everyone. I'm Ravindra, founder and CEO at Frontier. And I've been working in DeFi from 2018, like even before the DeFi term started. Okay, have a really good, need to have a really good conversation on cross-chain user experience, since I've been working on the user experience layer of things. Yeah.
Hey, I'm Philip. I'm one of the founder and CEO of LeFi. It's a bridge and DEX aggregation protocol, and we help companies to just go cross-chain and offer multi-chain products to their customers.
Awesome. And I didn't introduce myself, but I'm Rahul. I'm the CTO of Connext. Connext is an interoperability protocol. We've just launched our new bridge. You guys should check it out, Connext Network. That's my last show for the day. But yeah, let's get into it. So first of all, I want to start out by defining, what is cross-chain UX? So first of all, as everyone knows, we live in a multi-chain world. There's multiple chain ecosystems, chains within chains. So how does that translate into what cross-chain is? Like, what's the difference between cross-chain and multi-chain in your opinion? And how do you guys approach cross-chain in each of your respective products? Let's start with you, Gabby.
Yeah, so Pocket's fundamental thesis is that the future is multi-chain. And so, some people might argue that multi-chain is just being able to support or integrate with different chains. Others might argue that multi-chain is the same as cross-chain, which means that you can send transactions across pretty fluidly. And so what we're hoping to do is get to the point where we have a cross-chain future at our protocol level with the introduction of V1.
Yeah. We work most as a wallet. We concentrate more on the user experience level. Okay, when talking about multi-chain, okay, there is not just EVM. There is also other chains, Cosmos-based chains, and Near, Solana, Aptos, a lot of other ecosystems. Okay, when it comes to multi-chain, we have to think of multi-ecosystem, not just EVM, and cross-chain user experience, wallet plays a really big role, because there is a lot of manual work needs to be done. Be it let's say if cross-chain token transfer is the first use case of cross-chain messaging, what is going to happen in the coming future. Right now, even with the just token transfer, there is lot of unknowns to users. Okay, let's say I want to transfer one asset from one chain to another chain, and there are only certain assets supported on the destination chain. It's not it's all the assets are supported. Okay, that needs to be filtered by probably bridges, and they gave the user experience. And when you have a multi-chain wallet, okay, consider Cosmos-based wallets, right? You have IBC, and when you have IBC, you have lot of other chains which supports IBC to the transfer. Okay, if you don't enable easy access to the cross-chain transfer, it's very difficult for users to do the cross-chain transfer into IBC. Okay, I would say in terms of user experience, okay, when it comes to cross-chain transfers, we have to talk beyond EVM transfers. Okay, not just EVM transfers. Yes.
Yeah, I'll keep it short because a lot was said already. So in general, the fundamental problem in that multi-chain environment is that liquidity is fragmenting. infrastructure is fragmenting. To navigate that, it means we somehow have to consolidate and communicate a lot to the consumer. Hey, how do you get from chain A to B? Some wallets like Frontier do a great job by implementing these bridges and making it easy for the user to go from one chain to the other within their wallet. We help wallets like Frontier to do that in a much more efficient way. Since there's so much fragmented infrastructure, it's just very hard for projects to understand where to even start, right? And there are so many projects, and these projects like Connects, for example, are evolving quickly, iterating, and making it better and faster for everyone. So keeping up with that is just exhausting, not only for the users, also for the businesses. So yeah, cross-chain for me means essentially sending not only data and assets across chains, but also being able to communicate that to the users in the right way. For that, we have all the front ends, not only wallets, but also dashboards like Zero and Zapper. But we all together have to work on this, and yeah.
Absolutely. So now I kind of want to get in, and maybe together we could figure out what's the ideal cross-chain UX. What does this look like, and what are the different roles involved? I know all three of you guys work at different places in the stack, and each of you plays a very distinct and important role in the cross-chain UX. So what does this ideal UX look like, and what are the different roles, and what role do you particularly play? So Philip, I'm going to start with you on this one.
Sure. So in the best case, the user wouldn't care on which chain he's on, right, or she's on. So it's really about that we can navigate the web like we're used to, and developers pick blockchains like they pick databases today. So the user doesn't care, and nor does he know or she know where she's at. And this is just something we have to work towards alongside the full stack. So it's responsibility of front ends to abstract everything away and keep it far away. It's going to be hard because still things are manual. We have to start with problems like key management. Another layer below that is probably account abstraction, where we are able to automate transactions for the user, that we can do multiple actions with one approval, for example, that we keep that mental overhead as low as possible. Below account abstraction, we have network abstraction. That's where LeFi is active in, by aggregating core financial cornerstones like bridges and dexes, so that also that is being made easy for the businesses that build on top. And yeah, I would say.
Yeah, ideal user experience for users. Okay, there's too much going on when it comes to cross-chain transfer. Okay, like one is liquidity, as like Philip mentioned, and another thing is the user experience is really bad when this destination chain doesn't have a gas. Okay, and this definitely was solved by something called refueling the gas, simplifying the refueling gas on the destination chain. And as a wallet, like we have to showcase this upfront. Okay, like there is no gas on the destination. You have to do one extra step, or like give an approval, so that we will transfer the gas and also will handle the transfer. Okay, and ideal user experience for me as a cross-chain, right? Like cross-chain UX would be, I have an Ethereum chain. I want to deposit like DAI on the Polygon chain. I want to do this in one step. Okay, like something like do a cross-chain contract interaction. Okay, like if I want to deposit on Aave in like Polygon in one step without any hassle, that is going to be ideal like cross-chain user experience for me.
Yeah, so at the RPC infrastructure layer, the way we contribute to the end user, or like a wallet user's user experience, is really through things like latency and uptime, and giving them the ability to, or giving the wallets and other dApps the ability to read and write access to many chains. I think one of the things that's really important for us is also data integrity, and ensuring that when, particularly in the DeFi or wallet space, that these users are getting the right data that they intend to, or they're getting the responses that they would hope to get, and as opposed to being, attacked by malicious actors or anything like that. So, yeah, data integrity, latency, uptime, and also privacy. I think that's incredibly important in the wallet space as well, and ensuring that, people's data isn't being used inappropriately, or maybe even at all.
Yeah, awesome. Actually, I want to kind of expand on that a bit. And, there's going to be some trade-offs between what the ideal end user experience looks like versus something that might be the most secure or decentralized. So, how do you guys think about the trade-offs between that, and where do you approach that in terms of progressive decentralization or other things like that, in terms of where do you want to sit on that scale, and how do we get to basically better parts of that scale? Let's start with you, Ravindra.
I guess we are at a place where we are not contributing anything to the security at the bridge level. Okay, we are offloading that responsibility to the bridges. Okay, and bridge aggregators. Okay, and in terms of privacy, it's, let's say, having ability to change an address and destination. Let's say for the cross-chain transfer, I'm transferring from one address. By default, it goes to the same address on the destination. But there is always a possibility you can transfer to other address, and that you can. It's not straightforward to track that, on the destination chain, who has done this transfer. Okay, that's how the privacy is one aspect of it. But still, there are some explorers which bridges have built, where this explorer is built only for the bridge use case. So that explains how the whole steps in terms of how the transaction flow has happened, the asset transfer has happened. Okay, and I feel, okay, in the last 15 months, okay, there has been more hacks in terms of the bridges, in terms of security, and that's really needs to be improved on various level. Even if the bridge is hacked, okay, one feature which Li-Fi has, Li-Fi and other bridge aggregator has, they'll stop it then and there. They'll stop us doing the transfer. If something is wrong, okay, they'll not give us access to that particular thing. So these meta aggregators play a very big role in terms of improving the security further.
Okay, touching base on decentralization maybe first. So I believe that decentralization is core to what we do here, right? This is the number one goal. As a matter of fact, though, it's really hard. It's really hard to build a good user experience around decentralization, so we have to take trade-offs. And do we have to is the question, right? There are projects like Connext that have maxed out on decentralization from day one, always have played after idealistic ideas, and then you see other players just going centralized, moving really fast, getting market share, because then in the end the user doesn't care, but he should. So we have to put more educational effort into getting the user to understand what it means that things are decentralized. So last year we have seen things collapsing, FTX and so on, and we have seen these things collapsing because there was a lack of transparency and everything was centralized, and consumers' money was spent without permission in ways where they shouldn't have been. So last year was a perfect example of why we need decentralization, right? So the question is, how can we align the industry in moving towards these value systems? Because we are essentially talking about the value system here, and it's people are trading off economic advantage versus doing the right thing. So that's the question: how can we move? And that's a discussion we all have to have. How can we move in the right direction? Yeah, I think that's kind of.
Yeah, so I want to touch on that because decentralization is incredibly important to me. And one thing I'd like to frame is that decentralization starts as a social concept, right? So this idea that we don't put all of our eggs in one basket. We don't centralize all of our resources in one place because that exposes us to a lot of risk. So we think about censorship resistance, right? It's a popular buzzword, but what does it really mean? It means that when one entity controls, let's say, all of your data, for example, if that entity goes down or if that entity becomes blocked for whatever reason, you lose access to your data or your funds or your ability to interact with anything that should be personal to you. And so one of the challenges that I'm finding working in a decentralized infrastructure layer is that we have to accept some of the trade-offs with things like latency and uptime, which are metrics for technical performance of a social concept. And so what we're trying to find is efficiencies in our infrastructure and in our code so that we can lessen the trade-off, if you will, between latency, uptime, and all of these other important metrics that, make a difference when you're making a swap in your wallet, for example, but at the same time living true to some of the core social values of Web3.
Yeah, it truly is like a Moloch problem, right? Like the decentralization versus the kind of speed and user experience. Yeah, next thing I want to ask is it too early to go cross-chain? I'm going to start with you, Philip, because you did mention in your talk that the bridging projects are so early in their space, but like, is it too early?
Yeah, so it's essentially what happened in the past 2 years where we have seen all these hacks. It was a huge user demand of going cross-chain, meeting very immature projects that were allowing people to go cross-chain, right? By now, like moving like 1 year forward, these bridges have become much more mature. So it's not too early to go cross-chain. It depends who is supposed to go cross-chain. So there's also like these two terms, right? Multi-chain and cross-chain. Being present on multiple chains is being multi-chain, and being cross-chain means we have true interoperability. We have mechanisms that have like interconnected dependencies on two chains, right? And for that you need much more advanced bridges, and these bridges, typically arbitrary data messaging bridges, are very early, and we see now more and more liquidity networks that were just supposed to move assets also going down the stack, moving data across chain. It is not too early, but it's something where we have to be very careful what we do cross chain, right? Cross chain governance and so on. There are certain things that are potentially dangerous, but not as dangerous as Uniswap going cross-chain, right? Uniswap going cross-chain is just like, Uniswap is just, because that's what I told in the talk about, right? It's just like, as the biggest and most important representative protocol in this market, it's just a little early. Like, you don't have to be first mover. Like, let other people fuck up first. Thank you, right? So this is kind of the stance we are having here, and it's hard enough to assess these bridges, especially as they're iterating so fast. So that also shows that the fast speed of iteration shows that bridge builders themselves are not sure what's the right thing to do, and then finding product maturity after each iteration is just something that takes more time, But yeah, it's not too early. We just have to figure it out in a careful way and treat it the right way.
Yeah. So, I can explain in like user perspective and the product perspective. Is it too early? For users, okay, like as long as there is an opportunity in another chain, they don't care. Okay, they just want to grab that opportunity. Okay, if there is 25% APR in one of the chains, they'll just bridge it and they just like want to earn that yield. Okay, and as a product, okay, bridging has become the second largest action for us wallet. Okay, like it's like you consider like some of the primary like actions. Like one of the primary action was swap. Okay, trading with like another asset, and now the next primary action has become bridging. Then comes everything else. Okay, like be it a lending, like be it yield farming, and be it like providing a liquidity in some other like pool, whatever. But the first action like to go has become a bridge. Okay, we have the highest volume, second highest volume like in the bridging. Okay, so that's it's definitely not early, but I feel there is users just don't care about the security and whether this bridge will fail and whether, okay, like I still remember one use case like Wormhole having a lot of synthetic assets and there was no like backed up canonical assets on the source chain. Okay, it doesn't matter. Like they just like on the destination chain they'll just continue trading. Okay, like so that's how the users think. That's about it. Like both user and product perspective as a wallet.
Yeah. So Web3 is early, right? There's still a lot to be learned here, and there is no real blueprint. We're still figuring it out, and let's be real, like a lot of the people in this room and who attend these sorts of events are the people interested in Web3, but go ask your parents. Do they know what Web3 is? Are they interested? We're not at that point of critical mass yet, and so like I think even when it comes to bridging, like we could say it's early, it's not early, but we're all still in the R&D phase, and so I think taking theory and applying it to reality, problems are going to come up. So unfortunately, bridge exploits have happened, and they've been really damaging, but it's been part of the learning experience as we move from research and development into more of like a core model or establish like a baseline for what it means to be cross-chain. And I think that's a theme across Web3. So.
Awesome. So, you know, we see new chains and new bridging protocols, new chains coming up all the time. So I want to know, like, what are the factors in your decision go towards when you add new chains? So I think, you know, in this case, we can start from the lowest level of the stack and then go to Philip for the aggregator and then the wallet finally. So let's start with you, Gabby.
Yeah, so we want to integrate with new chains all the time. Value alignment is super important for us, so that's definitely high priority on the list. Interesting technology or, you know, viable technology, does this integration work? But then there's also the developer interest. So our primary target, our primary audience are developers, right? We're not building for the end user who would be consuming a wallet, we'd be building for wallets. And so what are the ecosystems, you know, developers are interested in? Where are they building the cool projects? Where is the innovation coming from? So we want to integrate with new chains all the time, but that's what we look for.
Yeah, for us it's a three-step model, so to say. The number one most important indicator is customer demand. It's a pure business decision to go by customer demand, satisfy their needs, go to the chain they need to be on. The second step would be going by anticipated customer demand. So we can see like market signals and see, all right, how bullish are people on Aptos, Sui, and Sai right now? Should we be there fast, right? As an aggregator, we're also very dependent on third-party players, like Connext, for example, to just expand to the chains where we want to go to. So we back channel and be like, hey guys, don't you maybe want to move in that direction? And then this is happening, and that way we can expand faster. And the third one, like if we would get to the third stage, because we are so busy, we can just always go by customer demand, and like we haven't hit the point yet where we can just go freely by anticipate customer demand. But number three would simply go by data, right, and see, okay, where is volume coming from and going to, and how do the growth rates look like? Are they stable? Let's go in that direction. That would be the third tier.
Yeah, like Philip mentioned, customer demand, and like it's exactly the same thing Gabby mentioned as well. So there is one more point, like along with the customer demand. Like let's say if there is like probably like controversial, probably like the TVL. Like if there is a chain which has got probably like really good TVL, okay, that's like a, even though like that TVL has come from probably 100,000 users, that's like more than really good validation to integrate that chain, because there is already volume there, okay? And so the hierarchy of priority, right? Like we have to build it for power users first, and then go on to build it for like beginners and the newbies, and and the mid-level people. So like it always comes down to TVL. If there is enough TVL, like people will start asking, like we want to have the support for bridge.
Got it. I like the fact that all you guys mentioned users, because, you know, this is a panel about user experience, so users come first, and that really shows in all of you guys' answers there. So next, I want to ask, what do you think about the changing requirements of your product as the makeup of the market changes? So like, you know, as we onboard more and more newbies into the project or into the Web3 world, more and more of these people who don't know what they're doing, the user base gets less and less sophisticated. So how do you see the requirements of your own project changing? So Philip, we can start with you on this.
Sure. I mean, the more newbies that come onto the space that have less attention span to actually go deeper, the more abstraction we need. So it plays naturally in our favor to just abstract more, keep it simple. But also we, as a technical, we are a developer product, so as a technical middleware, it's simply we can only do that to a certain extent. But we also do try to do an educative job when it comes to our clients and tell them, hey, maybe you should look into this. This is a better user experience. So actually, when they implement us, we have a conversation with them. We're like, hey, maybe you should implement it that way. We see this converting much better in different projects. So that might be a UX angle you should think of. But yeah, I think it all plays into abstraction and simplification.
I guess there is definitely a lot of iteration. Okay, like it all comes down to the opportunities users has in the destination chain. Okay, and the first thing is destination chain opportunities, and the next thing is there are few ways, okay, like how they choose whether they want the transfer to happen faster, whether they want to consider the lowest fees to do the transaction transfer, and the capital efficiency. Like capital efficiency is another thing, okay. And then the user demand, okay. Like if they need anything, like for example, the concept of refuel was not in the place initially, like when, and later on, like when a lot of people like got stuck because of the gas not being there on the destination chain, that actually like came as a new requirement, and like that could become a new product, something like that. Okay, it's one thing is capital efficiency, and then the user experience wherever, like we just have to stop at each stage where like user gets blocked to do the cross-chain experience. Okay, that's how like the requirements will evolve all the time.
Yeah, so again, for us, our target audience are developers, and onboarding developers from Web 2 into Web 3, it's not a huge leap. I'm pretty sure most people here touched Web 2 at some point. And so, for us, it's about simplifying the product, making it easy to use, educating users, et cetera, but also staying really close to our current and potential users to just observe and try to understand their behaviors, their interests, and try to solve problems that they don't even realize they have. Because even if I can make, for example, an RPC endpoint the easiest thing to use in the world, if you're building your dApp in an inefficient way, it's always going to be expensive for you and for me to support your service. And that's very costly also as a business, because then you're providing inefficient user experience, right? So you're not bringing in the customers you want to bring in. So I think, above all, staying close to the users and staying close to the trends in the market, attending events like this, having conversations with people. Even in a non-world, I'm a great example. I think that's going to be so important here.
Awesome. So then I want to get into differentiation. So since, I think all four of us are in extremely competitive markets, like bridges, RPCs, wallets, bridge aggregators, like there's all multiple competitors. And since all of the technology we operate on is open source, anytime we see like us doing something, our competitors doing it the next day, or vice versa, we're always stealing from each other. So, how do you think about differentiation in this world, and how do you maintain an edge? Let's start with you, Gabby.
There's a lot of ways to do it, but I, in my personal opinion, it all comes down to quality of service and quality of experience. So, quality of service from a technical perspective, quality of service and documentation, support, and also just if you have a conversation with someone from the team, was that an enjoyable experience? I can tell you I've evaluated quite a number of providers and been in client conversations and been like, I didn't really like talking to them, or their documentation wasn't convincing for me, and so that alone was enough for me to say no. So I think from my perspective, like the differentiation is how do you build an experience that people want to keep coming back to?
Yeah, like in terms of like keeping an edge, like with the competitors and competitors moving fast, like I'm probably like, and competitors releasing a similar product in a better user experience, it all like sounds like a really good validation. Okay, like even let's say like there is some trade-offs in terms of the user experience not being good, but if the competitor is like taking a similar approach, that's a great validation. We can always go and fix the user experience. Okay, and it's the very like less number of primitives which is currently exist in DeFi and Web3 right now. Like if you're a pro user, like what are the things you can do? You receive assets, you transfer assets, you probably trade your assets, you buy NFT, you lend, you participate, you stake it. Okay, there is not much you can do other than these. Okay, like but like ultimately, like how do you fit all of this in one simple user experience is not something which anybody can solve it like in one go. Like it's going to be progressive like improvements. Okay, that's what I feel like. But when competitors are like building a similar thing, it's a great validation for things.
Yeah, I think for me it comes really down to execution, right? So ideas matters, execution matters more. So in the end, whatever your competitor is building, focus on your execution, don't stress. And I'm 100% with Gabby. Like quality of service matters so much, and it's so much easier to be better than 80% what's out there in the market, just by having better documentation, by being more responsive to customer requests, and by being hands-on with your clients, especially in the first ones, as long as you're small. And in crypto, guys, we are all small. So be hands-on with the clients, and this is something where you can outcompete others fairly easily. That's what we have been focusing on. And another thing to consider is, which we haven't seen that much yet because the market has been small in the past 2 years, but it's growing fast. So picking a niche, picking a target group, focusing on certain use cases, and you can not only align your messaging starting from your website, starting from your Twitter account. You can not only align your messaging with that target group, you can also align your actions, your product development, your roadmap, what you communicate, how you communicate, right? All of that you can adjust to a specific target group, and that way differentiate yourself. We even see that in the VC space. There are VCs like Animoca that have been focusing and messaging towards gaming-oriented Web3 companies from day one. And if you talk to any gaming company right now, whom they want to have on a cap table, they're like, Animoca. Yeah, easily. Like, it's just like, you want to be part of that. Like, you don't want to, if they pass on you, it just doesn't feel good, I guess. So, yeah.
Awesome, yeah. So switching gears a little bit, I want to talk about something that's really interesting to me, which is MEV. So, you know, MEV is crazy. It's a really like highly researched topic. And I think once you get into a cross-chain world, things get even crazier because then you lose synchronicity between chains. And then maybe you have all these other opportunities because you have all these other middle layers in between, like relayers, bridges that have this opportunity to kind of like see and capture MEV. So how do you guys think about MEV, and are there opportunities? Can you somehow return this stuff to users? So Philip, what do you think?
Sure. MEV is a topic that's in our mind a lot, especially these days. And I'll tell you why. Like, why these days? Because after 1.5 years, 2 years of operating, we are seeing that this whole infrastructure layer, it's kind of a race to the bottom fee-wise. So you're trying to figure out how do you make money. Damn it, right? People are squeezing you. So MEV could be one way. At the same time, it's like a fine grail between profiting from MEV and protecting from MEV. So especially us as a cross-chain aggregator, I'll give you an example. We allow people to swap, bridge, and swap. Once someone sees that, like a searcher sees that, they're like, okay, this swap is happening, then this bridging is happening. It will take 5 minutes, and then another swap is happening. So they have a lot of knowledge ahead of time to prepare themselves for certain attacks, right? How can we protect them? So we see a couple of providers now, like Rooks and Propellerhead and others, that are trying to protect from MEV, utilizing private mempools. Also, Flashbot is doing a lot of research here, who we all know. And at the same time, it could also be, hey, maybe there's opportunity for us to background the user, don't harm him, and profit from that fact. From being the transaction issuer, I have valuable knowledge in order to make it useful for myself economically. There could be a path, and we are currently trying to figure out how to deal with it. Obviously, we have to protect, especially larger traders. At the same time, we're trying to figure out, is there an opportunity we can actually communicate without, yeah, pissing off our users. So, right, yeah.
Yeah, so our experience with MEV, okay, like we are at a stage, okay, like where we are trying to give back the loss from MEV back to users, like at least on the trade level. Like in terms of cross chain level, like it's still a lot of work to like, because Philip mentioned there is like the time required to do the cross chain transfer or cross chain operation is there is a good amount of latency. You need to wait for like certain amount of confirmations and stuff. Okay, so the first step, like how we can approach this MVV, right? We have to come up with a solution where we can simulate the whole thing. Okay, like let's say like right now we have the like in intra-chain like simulation. Okay, like we can simulate by just using transaction parameters exactly what goes through. Okay, like you just have this transaction params, you're interacting with this smart contract with this data. Like using the transaction simulation, you can easily say like who can like block the MVV by certain techniques. Okay, but if we can come up with a cross chain simulation, then it'll become like much more powerful, and like we can give back all the things back to users.
So people respond to incentives. I've been thinking about a talk that was given at DevCon by a member of the CalSwap team, and he was talking about changing MEV incentives away from, block builders exclusively, and possibly, and proposed an idea of sharing some of the incentive or redistributing it with automated market makers. And it's something that they're I guess actively designing and working on. So if you're on the CalSwap team, like, give me an update. I'm curious. So that's a concept I'm interested in, because how do we distribute incentive to make something that, if it's going to exist, make it fair and make it accessible? Also thinking about the end user, can we distribute or share some of the incentives with the end user so that at the end of the day, like, it's not seen as something that's predatory, or it doesn't have to be. So MEV in general is a topic I'm pretty interested in, and if you have some research that you want to talk about, let me know.
I guess like I want to add one more point to the MEV, right? Like the way Hashflow did it, okay, like through the market makers, it's very smart. Okay, like they don't have an AMM pool, like they just like do the settlement based on the market maker bid. Okay, like so they're always like ahead, like in terms of like there's no concept of MEV there, like.
Maybe also to this, then again, you have that centralization problem, right? Like, there again, we have that value, that questioning the value system, where do we want to end up? And
Yeah, and I think that's where the distribution of incentives definitely comes into play as well.
a question, Gabby, also like a question we have been thinking about is, when we talk about distributing MEV to others, like, how many layers above us that infrastructure layer will care? Like the next people that are getting onboarded by Robinhood, who announced their wallet today, we won't be able to communicate MEV to them and explain them why they got. So probably that money ends up at Robinhood. They're like, nice, right? So, or can we call that interest rate then? We will see.
Awesome, guys. So last question. I want to bring it back to the wallets because we're in WalletCon. What would be your one wish list for a feature that you could add to a wallet right now to improve its usability? So let's start with the wallet guy himself.
I guess like
One sentence, sorry, just because
thinking
we want
beyond EVM, not just like thinking of just EVM.
One wallet, all chains.
Just seamless interaction like in Web 2.0. Just abstract it away for me, please.
Awesome. Well, I'd like to give it up to the panelists here. Let's get some questions from the crowd. Does anybody have any questions they want to ask the panelists here? Oh, we got one there.
Should I just shout it out?
Go for it.
You might just have to. Yeah. There we go. Thanks. This is possibly a contentious question, but when we talk about multi-chain, it's almost a given, well, it's definitely a given that we're not talking about Bitcoin. So interested in your perspectives on that. Is there any work in your respective organizations on compatibility back to Bitcoin, or are we just looking forwards into new chains?
I already mentioned like we should think beyond EVM. Okay. Yeah, like, yeah. So like, if there is an use case for Bitcoin, like, mm, eh, I'm, I'm happy to do it. Like, I'm happy to support it. Like, there is in terms of user request, we don't have a lot of user request, like in that sense.
Yeah, I mean, we're chain agnostic, so for us, anything outside of EVM is fair game as well. It just comes down to user demand.
Yeah, for us it's also, we are going by customer demand here. For sure it's also non-EVM that becomes relevant. One more thing in that multi-chain thinking in general, we have never seen such a huge influx of capital into research in terms of cryptography and distributed ledgers. So we will see new findings coming out, and these findings have to be productized to keep the economic incentive high enough to further fuel these research things, right? So we're going to see new products, new L1s that have these new findings incorporated. So that alone will fuel it. Also, in terms of multi-chain, we see all these large banks releasing their own compliant, enterprise-oriented chains. So there's tons of chains out there that we don't know yet. Maybe we will never. Maybe abstraction happens faster than adoption by TradFi, but this is also to consider. And yeah, we as a LeFi will certainly align with that and aggregate and provide access to all of these chains.
Awesome. Well, we're out of time now. Thank you all. Thank you again to the panelists here. Let's give them another hand. Thank you guys. Good job.